Is that, am I reading that correctly? Okay. All right, well, I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to, oh, sorry, we're recording?
Yeah.
All right, well, then I will call the meeting to order. We're here for the October 23rd meeting of the Assembly Legislative Committee, scheduled from 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. Go ahead and start with introductions. Members in the room.
Yara Silvers.
Zach Johnson, and online we have Ms. Baldwin Day.
Present.
All right, wonderful. And I believe that's everybody. If I'm missing someone, speak up. If not, without further ado, let's just go ahead and dive right in. If Mayor's Policy Director would like to go ahead and jump right in. The first item of business, review of the 2026 draft legislative program.
Sure. Nolan Clouden, Mayor's Office. Mr. Chairman, so I have what you've got in front of you here is a draft of our legislative program. This has gone through, through main folks on the 8th floor. We've crafted this in line with the requirements and code for legislative program. It needs to be introduced before the budget is approved. So this is scheduled for introduction to November 18th. And then it has to be approved before December 10th in code. So we are on track for all of those requirements. This has been drafted, for discussion and consideration. There is, of course, a window of opportunity and plenty of time to incorporate feedback into it. And before it goes on to the agenda for approval by the body. We couched this one, and I presented the theme high level on it by way of reminder. The 3 themes of safe, secure, affordable, and that our top ask would be for capital support for the Port of Alaska modernization program. So you'll see the top request listed there for the port. I think we know that we're in a very budget constrained environment. I think we've gotten that message really clearly, and the administration met with most of the Anchorage delegation a couple of weeks ago, and that was definitely a clear message. But nonetheless, I think we have a responsibility to try to get resources for the important needs that we have. And so, and there is still, some possibility of a general obligation bond. But so the port ask would need to be something, it's a large dollar ask, but it is a statewide concern, or I think as well. So the safe category is sort of where community safety, is the main connecting thread. The main asks that we have in there right now, capital support for the APD Real-Time Crime Center. We had included an ask for blight reduction funding. This would be for development services they have that nuisance abatement fund. We've been able to deploy capital from that, effectively in the past to deal with nuisance properties that don't have much prospect of being rehabilitated or that are not viable for rehab. The inflation adjusting the E911 surcharge, which creates revenue for the municipality. That surcharge hasn't been adjusted for inflation in several years, and also doesn't apply to voice over IP systems. So it's a per line charge that would create revenue that can go towards our public safety response. Funding the community assistance program, which is always something we're always going to have in our program, I think, in one form or another. That's couched as public safety because public safety is almost half of our budget, and that is the likely use of that funding, if we continue to get it. The secure category is about kind of infrastructure and resilience. So I think, this port modernization would fit there. A lot of our asks here are related to infrastructure, but there are a few other kind of categories that fit that. One is increasing rates for general relief for assisted living. This is related, this one might require a little explanation, but this is the issue that we have if you go to some of the congregate shelters that we have. You find that there are a lot of people that are living with disabilities that are in these shelters, and that's not a very good and supportive environment for them to be. And there's a challenge with them getting into supported, assisted living arrangements because they're on general relief if they're not on Medicaid, if they aren't eligible for Medicaid, that the reimbursement rates are too low. And so this is a state issue that changing those rates for general relief assistance could create more space there. So get folks into a better situation that'll frees up more shelter space for people that are, shelters are great for people, kind of getting them into the next stage, right, out of streets and into the next stage, whatever that would mean to be.
And I think Representative Mina is interested in working on this. She's been working on more support to expand assisted living beds anyhow. So she understands the issue very, very well. So I think
Yep.
she's interested in helping on this.
We also did include, came through via our Public Works, the Chugach State Park Access Study. You know, we've had the ongoing CASA issue, and this would be modest ask for support that project. Consider stakeholder feedback and recommendations for roadway, parking lot, trailhead, and trail projects. Prioritize winter road maintenance coordination. This is really more of an ask between, you know, for state DOT to better coordinate our, you know, for the purposes of snow removal and road maintenance more generally. Obviously, a lot of our roads in Anchorage are state roads, so that issue. The hiring freeze on Alaska DOT Central Region, you know, this is making a lot of the coordination with our departments and Public Works, you know, more difficult. Another ask here, amending statutes concerning utility rate setting. This is something that AWU has brought forth, you know, a water and wastewater utility, about the way that infrastructure improvements can be passed on to ratepayers. That would include, they're allowed to include their the horizontal infrastructure, that pipe expansion, but not vertical plant in their rate setting until they do a full-blown rate case. This would allow them to do that without doing a rate case. The bottom line with it is that it makes it easier to resolve the issue where infrastructure is holding up housing development. This is something that would create a little bit more flexibility for AWU to have the equity to actually put money into some of those projects. That's why we included it in the program.
I think before we move on to the last category, affordable, and member Silverson, maybe with a question on this section.
Yeah, first question I have is on the safe section. The blight reduction funding. So it says there's 200 derelict structures for abatement, and you're asking for 500,000. I guess my question is, like, how much headway will 500,000 actually make? Like, what will 500,000 do to address those over 200 derelict structures?
Yeah, we demolition. We've got a lot of recent quotes on demolition from the development services having done several of them recently. And like a typical single family house that needs to be demolished, it can cost somewhere in the ballpark of 30,000, a bigger one up to 50, 60, $70,000. So, you know, that could be in the ballpark of 10, 11, 12 houses, something like that. It's a matter, we could use millions of dollars, right, for this, but it's a matter of kind of like an ask that is kind of in the ballpark. We feel like it's kind of strategic to have some of these lower, you know, dollar value asks that are kind of in the, you know, couple million and lower. If, you know, we're looking at a lean capital budget year, some of those things could, you know, become viable, you know, in that environment.
And I think that's exactly right, Nolan. I think the other piece of this is we believe the Alaska Housing Finance Corporation is going to have a larger dividend going to the state this year than usual. And so an overall message of trying to reinvest that dividend back into housing programs versus going into the state general fund. And so this would be one aspect of where we think, actually, compared to a lot of other things, that really would have a high return in terms of neighborhood revitalization. So, yeah, and then I would just say we have Wendy Chamberlain online here too. And Wendy, if there's anything that you want to add, just, again, we talked about it at the first meeting, but that general atmosphere that we are walking into with the legislature this year and funding.
Thanks, Suzanne. Yes, I think it's going to be a very, very bleak year. I think the legislators brought that up at their meeting with the mayor and their staff, but we're looking at a minimum of 200 million deficit for the current year we're in. Of course, the Western Alaska floods, the typhoon, as you know, they underfunded disaster assistance by 30 to 50 million. That's going to have to be put back in, and then they're going to have to put back in more money for match. Federal DOT match needs more money. One of the education areas needs more money. So there are a minimum of 200 million. My guess is right now today, talking with to Ledge Finance, they're probably at least 300 million for the current year having to pick up. And then the oil companies, that their recent gatherings of resource development and that are looking forward. And even though we're looking at a projection of $67 a barrel oil, they're saying that all of their analysts say for next year, oil could drop as low as $55 a barrel oil. So we're in a very grim situation until we can get the pipeline announcement, until we can get something on. We have 3 billion in the CBR. All of our analysts say we need to keep 2 billion in the CBR for emergencies like the typhoon. So it really gives us very little leeway. I mean, what it really gives us is to implement a fiscal plan, which will be tough to do in an election year, or reduce the dividend down to 300-400. That will not be palatable either. So going into this session, it's going to be tough, particularly if you see oil drop. If oil drops much below $68 a barrel, the legislature's got a very difficult task ahead of them.
Okay, thank you. And then I had another question on the secure section. Chugiak State Park Access Study. How many studies do we currently have funded for parks? I just feel like every time I turn around, I see another study.
Oh, you
funded
mean
somewhere?
for like municipal parks?
Yes.
Good question. We'll have to get back to you. I know
Okay.
that there are several in the work. I mean,
Okay.
it's frankly, it's part of the process when we're
Right.
thinking about making a significant investment in any one park. So like.
I just feel like we have a lot of studies funded and maybe the funds haven't been spent for even some of the
You're
studies.
talking about plans.
Yeah, plan.
Right.
So like the Cuddy
Yeah.
Midtown plan.
Study.
Yeah, well, this
Is different in terms of this is access to the Chugach to do a general view that will also help us with the CASA planning in
Okay.
the out years. So different
Okay.
type of planning exercise than a plan that we would do for like Cuddy Midtown or
Right.
Town Square or Eastchester.
Okay, yeah, I guess I'm just
Okay.
interested in like how many studies we currently have funded. And
Yep.
if that funding has been spent or is being spent towards completing those studies.
We can ask Parks and Rec to get
Okay.
that information too.
Thank you.
But I don't think we're currently doing anything that's directly related to access to Chugach State Park. And
I think we've funded
the-
the CASA study for Stuck Again.
the design, there was the design. for
They've done
the-
the design.
The parking lot design, right?
Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think, as I read it, the intent of this is to take a broader view at sort of
Yeah.
what should we contemplate putting the CASA
It
bonds.
is.
I mean, this would be the third year that we are talking about having a CASA bond before the voters, right? So it's still relatively new. And as somebody who's been here since the first one, like it has been an ongoing conversation to figure out what is the best way to identify and prioritize projects. And I think, as I understand it here, this idea is like to figure out how can we do a better job of kind of conceptualizing what should be in the bond. It's been sort of a somewhat ad hoc process thus far. And so I think if I'm understanding it,
Yeah.
please correct me, the idea is here is if we had a study,
Yeah.
that would give us a more fulsome look at how do we do this. It's a broader, more
correct.
strategic look.
yeah, that's
That's
exactly.
correct.
okay.
I'll just add too quickly, because CASA can, touch almost every part of Anchorage, right? Or at least every part along that touches the Chugach State Park. It's more than like one district. It's something that I think a comprehensive look. How does the whole muni access the park? I think would probably be, a fair rational one.
Right, right. Yeah, and people from all over the municipality, access Chugach State Park too.
Yeah. Just quickly want to note that Member Baldwin Bay joined us in person at 2:39. With that,
It's like Dean has his hand up.
oh, sorry, Mr. Gates, are you trying to?
Oh, yes, thank you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to mention in relevant to the CASA priority here, there's a little momentum, I think, over the past year. I guess momentum, from one point of view, is sort of a slow roll to where we get really rid of legal obstacles that were in our way before some CASA bonds. And by that, I mean, they're going to get us bond, put projects in the park boundary, right? Municipal bonds need to be something on property the municipality owns. And I think we have a changed situation with SB 47 that passed last session, was effective July, that authorized the state to grant easements to municipalities, easements into the parks. So now they can grant us no illegal easement for roadways and so forth. I think it would be helpful to mention legal access in that paragraph about study legal access easements, and then the rest roadways, parking lots. I think that sort of was one of the big barriers we had in the past.
That's a great point.
Mr. Chairman, if I can continue, if you want me to continue, the affordable section, any measures that can help make it easier for residents and families to live that are, fairly high cost of living. One, we have the Waste to Energy project, which has submitted, an application to the Renewable Energy Fund. And as I understand it, the Renewable Energy Fund, the legislature has been essentially like, getting the kind of scored applicants and then making appropriations decisions about, what they're willing to fund from those. And so we have a submission for $2 million, and I think everyone on the committee's been briefed well on the waste energy project, but has a lot of potentially strong benefits for the municipality and offsetting natural gas usage, among other things. And then there's an ask in here for a rail related to affordable housing, developing new mechanisms through ADA and AHFC, and there's been various ideas proposed for this to provide gap financing, patient capital for housing developments. And then allowing ADA loan participations to be used for housing, which is also there's a bill that's active, sponsored by Senator Dunbar to that effect too. And then the final one here is weatherization funding, especially targeted at mobile homes. So through AHFC or a similar partner to help weatherize those homes. We have higher energy costs and also, housing stock that continues to age. The final section that's here is that for the district level priorities, that legislative services is helping to kind of go for each of the members, each of the districts, kind of the top 5 projects. So those will be filled in, I think, as well.
Member Bolden.
Yeah, so a question about the affordable housing piece of this. Is there a reason that we are asking for gap financing and patient capital versus an infrastructure bank? What's the rationale there? And also, is there a reason that the focus here is on affordable housing versus attainable workforce housing?
Yeah, it could be. We could have it be argued for that. I think that we're likely to see, if anything, small amounts of money going into that, and so I think it makes sense to prioritize affordable housing in that context. But it also something that could create more housing for people that are currently unhoused. But I think that we could think about it more expansively and more broadly. I think that we're not imagining like great abundance of resources that's going to be available to this. So I think if we're talking about an infrastructure bank, I don't think we're going to see the kind of money that could capitalize that to the extent that it's needed.
Is that because we don't? Yeah. Why is that, given the resources at ADA's disposal right now?
Well, I think that's a whole complicated conversation. It's been, I think.
Okay.
But I would say we would welcome your interest, and if you want to offer an amendment to it. I mean, again, right. We've just gotten a lot of reluctance.
Yeah.
But there are definitely some legislators who are championing, trying to break out more ADA money, and maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about, things that might fall more closely into alignment with how ADA presently views itself, and potentially an infrastructure bank versus housing specific.
Right.
Financing or patient capital might be more aligned with the way that ADA sees itself.
Yeah.
And that would be, I could see that being very supportive for development across the board, not just for affordable housing, but also for attainable housing for workers.
Right.
So since, I think all of our emails have had developers saying, hey, the cost of infrastructure is killing us.
Yeah.
I was just curious about that and what.
And I guess I would just ask Wendy again, sort of her impression. I know she's been watching different bills, trying to put pressure on ADA, sort of where that is. But I think, that's a very good point. And maybe that does more align with their general, we invest in infrastructure posture.
Maybe.
I'd add that we do have a conversation going, with ACDA about ADA working on making some capital available for housing construction loans as well too. And so I think that, that yeah, that data strategies are definitely something we can think about.
Wendy, do you
This
have
is
any?
Wendy.
Huh?
I just agree. I think we need to sit down with Ada in the next couple of weeks, and we need to sit down with AFHC. And once we get them to agree that they won't fight us, then we go to the third floor, because if we put it in, that red pen comes after us fairly quickly unless we've got some sort of agreement from both Ada, AFHC and the third floor. So I think we start with AFHC and we start with Ada, and we just sit down and have a realistic conversation. They're all, most of them from Dana Cruz on down are construction, and they're in Anchorage, and they understand the struggles. So I think that's the first step, and then we go to the governor and Tyson. But if we can get that, at least we can get legislative support if they support it, but otherwise they'll just say, it's going to be vetoed.
Mm-hmm.
So Suzanne, I can set that up in the next couple of weeks for us.
Again, welcome you.
I was gonna say, if my participation would be helpful, I would be really happy to attend.
Okay, good.
Okay, I have myself in the queue, and then we'll go to Member Silvers. First, I think a quick comment on the district priorities. Typically, we've left this up to the individual assembly members for their districts to figure out what those priorities are. Or I think there's been an ask from the administration to try and coordinate perhaps with them to make sure that we're looking at projects that are probably already on the CAP,
Yeah.
PIP.
Right.
We had them for a while, so I think, and I'm getting nods so far,
Yeah,
but just.
that would be helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think probably my recommendation would be for the members in these districts to talk to each other, figure out what projects they might want to
Yeah.
put on the list. And then perhaps have a conversation with Suzanne about what should go in there. And I
Yeah.
think typically.
And really, I mean, that just helps us be able to answer legislators' questions, because if it's not already on there and we're asked, we just won't have the background to really make a justification for the need for funding for
Yeah,
other projects.
and I mean, I would point to perhaps the way we've done in the past as sort of reference. I guess last year we did 4 or 5. I mean, I think we give individual members some latitude here, but I would just sort of suggest that recognizing it will be a small capital budget, if any, to think strategically.
And for the past 2 years, probably only 3 things in the entire list has been funded, and I think 2 of those got vetoed. So it was a lot of work to put that together and then work with PME and other people to make sure it was loaded into CAPS's. And then nothing came of it because no one really advocated. I don't know if they're legislators for those things. So if it's something that the mayors need to also be advocating for, that would really help.
Member Silvers.
Back to the housing conversation. Jen Levy has historically vetoed housing projects, including ones that have, been very well leveraged. And so I think that's something to really consider when we figure out, like, how do we make this ask? How do we present it so that it doesn't get vetoed, even if it is given to us. I kind of liked where you were going at with maybe focusing more on infrastructure.
I think the other is both of these are, instead of the money coming to the municipality of Anchorage, there's a way that it goes to Alaska Housing Finance Corporation. So just, right, it goes back to one of his agencies.
That's a really good idea. He likes that.
And then I'll jump back in the queue myself. I wanted to circle back to the port modernization. And it's been presented in this draft, it's the top request. In the introduction, we explicitly asked capital support for the camp, but we don't have a dollar amount. And then we have a paragraph here, at least talking about why the port is important, which I don't think is really disputed. I will say, I think if there is a geo bond, which I've heard there's maybe some serious interest in that it would feel like a no-brainer that the Port of Alaska should be part of that. I mean, that's sort of, what is the point of a geo bond if not to do something like that? But I think the question I would put out there, perhaps to members to contemplate, is outside of the geo bond, do we want to have an explicit ask for the port modernization? When we went down to Juneau last year, we did not. We just sort of presented an informative overview of here's the status of the project. Thank you for your past support. But we were told don't ask for money, and so we did not ask for money. So I think it's a question, do we pursue a different strategy this year? Recognize that money's tight. And then I also just say, well, I think strategically, there's an argument for a lot of the smaller asks, that we put into this draft program. Small ask really doesn't move the needle much for the port. I mean, given the scale of the project, I would argue if we get $5 or $10 million, that's not really going to do anything to actually meaningfully affect the overall fiscal plan for the Port of Alaska. And in fact, I would be a little nervous about giving perhaps Juneau an opportunity to have an out to say, look, we contributed to the port. Yeah, so I'm kind of putting that out to the members. I don't know if anyone wants to comment on it now. If not, it's something perhaps to think about as we go through iterations of this draft. But I think it would probably be to our benefit to maybe be a little bit more clear about what our ask is in the Legit program. Because frankly, this feels a little ambiguous or open-ended right now.
It is a bit, Mr. Chairman, it is somewhat tentative. I think that there's some strategic calls to make about what, the strategy for how we're going to approach this. I think it's still taking shape. We know that we know that it's an overarching priority, and we knew that last year it was strategic for us to take a pause on the port as far as advocating for something for a big ask at the time. But I think that we have to think through whether it's wise to pin ourselves to an exact number that we want to put into the program or not. I think that we do, I think that we do have a mandate though to pursue a sizable ask for the port, regardless.
I think it'd be helpful perhaps if, when we take this up again, if we had something, if the administration is recommending a specific ask, that we have that and we can discuss what that would be. Member Baldwin Day.
Do we have a sense from the acting port director or the, let's see, what is Jim's official title?
Deputy Director.
Deputy Director, as to what a meaningful contribution from the state would look like at this point?
Through the chair, Member Baldwin Day, it is, I think that it takes 100, 200 million. It's got to be in that kind of ballpark, right? I think in order to make a meaningful contribution. And if we're talking about a geo bond, that could be feasible. If we're talking about a lean capital year, that doesn't seem feasible. But I think that it's got to be somewhere in that kind of a ballpark. I think that we need, the two, the T1 and T2 together is right. We're updating the plan of finance right now, but it's about $1.9 billion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what is it that gets us towards a meaningful offset for surcharges, that get passed on to users?
Yeah, it seems like if we could make the case that we need X amount of dollars for this offset, that I think having a concrete ask and a rationale is a stronger position than just saying, hey, we have this big project going on and you should help us with it. So, personally, I would be in favor of attaching a dollar amount and a rationale to this particular ask. And especially since we had a visit from Secretary Duffy, both senators were at the port for a visit. I feel like the port has the profile of the port, at least in the conversation around like defense and national security and all of these, related sort of threads, might give us a better position from which to say, hey, we need state buy-in at this level. So, that's where my brain goes is, let's capitalize on the fact that we just had Codell here and the transportation secretary and really drive the point home that this is an Alaska project and we need the legislature to step up.
Yeah, I think I encourage everyone to take a look at the handout we had for last year, which I think touches on some of that. Obviously, it'd be good to update it. But one of the things we did is we had different scenarios to actually say, what are the impacts to the grocery prices, for example, if we do this all through a tariff surcharge model versus diversified funding. So I think trying to find ways to make it feel meaningful to the legislators. Member Silvers.
Yes, and that argument, I think we've made that very strongly to legislators and federally as well. And, you know, we do have a parallel federal strategy going for the port too, you know, where we're thinking, you know, big and ambitious, right? Working with the port users and their government affairs folks as well. I think, you know, I think that yeah, there's strategy to put into this, I think, as to what we ask for. And I think that right now this doesn't, the fact that there isn't a dollar value here doesn't mean that we didn't want to put one in the program, because I mean, I think we still have time to decide that. But thinking through the challenges we have, I think sometimes too, it's good to think about the legislative program. Things become very dynamic once session kicks off, and the legislative program is, you know, a fairly static document. And so there's also that. I think that we're going to pursue as much as we can under the circumstances. I think, regardless, it's a matter of whether a dollar figure is going to help us get as much as we can done.
In terms of process for legislative programs, just a couple things I want to have from members. We are looking at having a work session to discuss the legislative program. I think we're looking at perhaps November 21st as a target date, but you can wait for your invites to hit your inboxes before considering that official. As Mr. Plata pointed out early on, you know, this will be up for a vote at the assembly meeting, our first meeting in December, and it's something that we need to adopt at that time. Now, we have the right as members to make amendments. However, I will say by the time you get to the meeting and you have a nice shiny draft, if you start messing with it, you will create a lot of headaches with our very overworked and very appreciated staff. So the more we can work together to hopefully achieve a draft program that you know enough members feel comfortable with, that we do not have to make sausage on December 4th, I think will make everyone's lives much easier. So that is part of the intent for why we're looking at having a work session. So I would strongly encourage everyone, if you have changes you want to see happen, have them ready to go, not later than that date, please. Is there anything else on the legislative program?
I have a quick 2 comments. One, concur. We really appreciate Ledge Services help in putting that document together. And so, yes, that would be very helpful. And then Member Brawley actually handed me this in the elevator. Wanted me to share it. So I have just read it. So, but it is sort of timely, and it is from the Anchorage Local Emergency Planning Committee. And maybe I just will submit this to our chair and do with it what you like, but it is a request for state funding to support the Local Emergency Planning Committee. And the Anchorage Office of Emergency Management is one player in that. So, and it looks like potentially there is a risk of losing federal FEMA dollars if the state does not contribute. And so that is the extent of my knowledge.
Yeah, I guess quickly on this, since this is new, could you send an email to the clerk's office for them to share with the members?
I do not have that by email. I got the print.
I think
Could I maybe hand the
You have
paper
it
copy to have a scan or some way for us to fairly make sure that it gets attached to the committee site and shared with the membership?
Probably actually had to retrieve that from a recycling bin. She told me about it.
Oh, okay.
And suddenly realized, wait a second.
It was very carefully filed.
Here.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I mean, I
Thinking this is
think at
important.
this point where we put in the committee meeting, I think we have to make it part of the.
But I think
public
given,
record.
again, the Western Storm disaster we are currently in, that might be a ripe conversation to have.
Yeah,
And I think I can get an electronic version from Amanda Loach or from Brian Parch.
okay. Yeah, let's just make sure. I mean, I'm not the expert on these things, but I think now that we've sort of put it out here in the committee meeting that getting nods from the clerk, we need to figure out a way to make this document a public document.
Right.
Dross.
I had a couple of questions for you two. Are everything in the program a legislative action or any of them executive side departmental action?
Some of them, I mean, like the question about winter road maintenance, I mean, certainly the legislature could direct DOT in the operating budget to do a better job. So I think it could be, but that is, I mean, more of an executive action, but I think what we would be asking for is more legislative attention to their road maintenance in Anchorage.
Okay. For that, road one, I feel like we did have that the last two winters, and I'm not
Mhm.
sure if any action was taken. Should we have a more specific request? Or I know like money that goes into South Central doesn't necessarily go to Anchorage. It could go to the valley or.
Central region is large.
So I don't know, giving them more money helps.
So we do, I mean, I will say that like that through our departments, we do have ongoing dialogue with through the departments and through the mayor's office and through AMATs. We have a lot of ongoing dialogue with DOT, you know, at the highest level, at the commissioner level. And so it's not something that we're not doing anything with, but it's not always like super visible and it doesn't always play out through the legislative process.
Okay. I'm thinking about this in terms of for Ally when she makes the program, if we need to mark anything as
Oh,
like
last year.
like legislative
you.
versus executive ask.
Yeah.
And then if you could also, if any of these link to existing bills that are out there, that'd be nice to add that information to it. And then I'm guessing that this is my cue to reach out to assembly members to get the district to give those instructions, to start working on the district priorities. Would you like me or Jennifer to do that?
I think that'd be lovely.
Okay. And then Nolan and Suzanne, do you have a recommendation for how many per district you'd like? That list last year was pretty long.
I think, given the comments from Wendy, I think no more than two. I mean,
Yeah.
just,
Each member picks one.
If we get 2 per district per year instead of 0 out of 5 per year, we might make more progress. So, I think that is all of my questions. My comment is just thanks so much for getting in this in the same format as last year. I think that'll make it really easy for Ally. When she gets back from vacation, she can start plugging this into a draft that we could probably have a formatted draft for that people could review before that work session. Is this group meeting for the work session?
No, the calendar is dynamic with scheduling this committee. This committee, our November meeting is on the 19th, so
Oh, I see, right there.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think it'll give us, that may be pretty close to the work session, but you know, I think it'd be nice if perhaps,
That'd
we
be
had
perfect. I think Ally can.
yeah, if we had an updated draft that we could present there and share, and then hopefully the members, you know, between what we have there and what they see then, they'll have an opportunity to come in with any last minute, but, you know, they're weeks.
Okay.
Member source.
Can you remind us, especially for the assembly members that are new, this year, how successful was our legislative program last year? Like, what did we ask for? What did we get? What got vetoed? Just like a quick overview, if that's possible.
Yeah, I think we set a goal in the annual plan to achieve at least 3 things from the program, and I think we did. One of them, I think we got 4 things. One of them was the BSA that got vetoed, but then overwritten. So I would say probably 3 or 4 things, I think, from the plan got accomplished.
Sorry, what are you looking for?
Can I look at it?
Program? Absolutely, yeah. And I think we
The two
handed
guys-
these at our last meeting. You can also, we have extra copies and they're available digitally as well.
It was like the True Dutch access bill
Mhm.
got passed.
Yeah.
Money did get put in for forest fire prevention, but I think didn't get vetoed in the supplemental budget. I think it got vetoed the prior
Yeah,
year,
it
then put in the supplemental. We're
It-
counting that as a win.
And we did get 10 million for behavioral health too,
Behavioral
which was one of
yeah,
our
yeah.
priorities.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's true.
Okay.
I think even in lean years, there's value in having a program so that, you know, if we ever come back to better times, that we can say, these are things we have been asking for, you know, for a long period of time. So I think having some continuity in the program has value in and of itself. Member Baldwin Day.
Thank you. Have we considered sort of rubber stamping or adopting ASD's number 1 ask to the state as part of our municipal legislative program? Their number 1 ask is that the state develop a fiscal plan.
That's a good idea.
Sounds good. So I'm just curious if that's something we want to say co-sign, and incorporate into our legislative.
I like that.
Last year, you did have the BSA increase, so I think it would be equivalent to that, and that is something the assembly should just consider do.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we were trying to be conscious of, not even when there's very complimentary, not taking other groups' requests and putting them into our program necessarily so that we could keep it focused, more
On what
specifically on municipal asks. So I think we were trying to take that approach as much as possible.
Fiscal plan's important, though.
That does impact Anchorage.
Yeah.
If the state does not have a fiscal plan.
And it's a can that keeps getting kicked down the road, so
Yeah.
let's keep pulling it up, put it in front of them.
And maybe that's, I don't know how the assembly would take action on that independently of the legislative program, but that does seem like a pretty significant ask that if that doesn't get addressed, then we continue to be in the situation where we're questioning what the state's position is relative to municipality statewide. So.
Anything else on the legislative program? Okay, let's go on to the next item of business, discussing our 2025 legislative visit to Juneau to promote this, what I'm sure will be a magnificent program once it's done. So as I understand it, for this year, at least the mayor has already planned or is actively planning a visit to Juneau earlier in the session.
Mhm. We don't have dates nailed down, but yes, we are thinking earlier, and then probably will also go back for AML.
Okay.
Hmm.
So in the past, in the years I've been on the body, we have sent members of the assembly down to Juneau, and I think it's generally been any member that wishes to go down and participate. So we schedule a series of meetings with legislators, thinking strategically about who to meet with, but also casting a fairly broad net. The first year I was on the body, we had a different administration in place, and there were completely separate visits between the assembly and the mayoral administration. And I think it led to a little bit of confusion because the messaging was not always consistent. And I think it undermined our position, in terms of being able to advocate for our interests in the municipality. Last year, I think went better in that we had the assembly and the mayor's office there at the same time and very much sharing this message that this is about unity and emphasizing the fact that the legislative program is a official document of the assembly and the mayor's administration. So I think we're still maybe in the early stages of figuring out the timing. And I don't know if it sounds like the mayor's office may be making 2 trips. I think we have made our visit I think we've done it both around AML and then also not around AML. The timing is always a little bit tricky because things get very busy down in Juneau, and trying to hold on to the attention of legislators can be a challenge. So I think for now, just for this meeting, and we can maybe have a more specific conversation at this November meeting, but just have members to start thinking about whether or not it is something they'd be interested in doing. And then also, I think for us to continue to talk to the administration about what the timing for that should look like.
Yeah. And again, I think we can work with Wendy to sketch that out and get her recommendation as well, and the assembly can then take that into consideration.
For AML this year, it falls on the week of an assembly meeting and it could not be avoided. And then they shifted their schedule. It used to be like Wednesday through Friday, but now I think it's Tuesday through Thursday. So I think it'd be pretty hard for assembly members to go to AML this year. It's AML.
Alaska Municipal League.
Okay. We have the winter conference in December that we can pay for if you want to go check it out and see if you want to get more involved.
That's in Anchorage this year.
Yeah,
Captain Cook.
yeah, or,
At the Denina.
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So just putting that out there that it might be hard for assembly members to make it to the AML this year. Because if you wait till after the assembly meeting and take the flight to June, you've already missed most of the conference. But I think assembly members would like to go.
Unless we go and everybody calls in from June.
Yeah.
Which the clerk would love.
There's 7 in person.
Oh,
Uh,
Anything else on that?
February 17th.
All right, so moving along, we have our legislative and budget priorities. I think we've pretty well covered that as we've discussed the legislative program. So I don't know if anyone has any other comments they'd like to add under priority for the budget items for 26. All right, not seeing anyone. I'll go ahead and note that our next meeting of the Legislative Committee will be on Wednesday, November 19th. Between November, December, our schedule's a little dynamic. We're working around holidays and other factors. So we have the next two meetings scheduled. And then once we get into 2026, I think we're going to fall into a regular schedule of it being the last Wednesday of the month. Looking towards we'll have to double check, but I think what about the high level takeaway is November, December are going to be somewhat anomalies, and then we will fall into a regularly scheduled time starting in 2026.
Okay.
With that, that carries us through the agenda. Is there anyone who would like to participate from the audience?
Observing.
Okay,
Since you brought up AML, if you don't mind.
I'll just say, if you want to comment as a member of the audience, if you just move a little bit closer so the mic picks you up.
Sure.
And then just briefly introduce yourself, where
Yeah.
you're from, and we give you 3 minutes.
Okay, cool, thanks. I'm Carol Treem. I'm actually Government Affairs Manager at AML. Was in town this week for our tax conference. So I just wanted to plug our annual conferences the week of December 8th, and it's our 75th anniversary. So we're gonna go big, right across the street. Get your tuxedos rented.
Oh, wow.
The gala, yeah, we're really going big. And then of course. Of course, we've got our legislative fly-in in February. You know, we could probably work something out with CBJ, get your assembly meeting set up in there.
Do you have some connections?
Oh, yes. Yeah. And then finally, I wanted to say, so Assemblymember Rivera is on our board, Assemblymember Brawley is on our legislative committee. I don't know that she's going to be able to continue that commitment. So if anybody's interested in serving on our legislative committee, we'll be recruiting for that during our annual conference. So thanks, guys.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Now, it looks like we saw a hand go up online. Is there somebody here in the Teams meeting who's here for audience participation? And if so, I think you can just jump in, state your name, what part of town you're from, and you'll have 3 minutes.
If that is me, I'll go ahead. My name's Amanda Thompson. Let me see if I can get that. And I am an ESD teacher and just a member of Turnagain and Girdwood communities. So thanks so much for bringing up about the, ASD priorities and things like that. Just on the teacher side of things, just want to put forth there that a lot of teachers are really concerned about their high classroom numbers. And so accountability for ASD through what happens at the state for reducing class numbers would really help a lot of teachers, a lot of families, a lot of students. And apologies there. Oh, go ahead. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, thank you. And also accountability for how special education is handled. So we've noticed that there's not as much support. And I think this was noticed at many Assembly members noticed this in the ESD budget last year as well and called attention to that. So thank you so much for those who have eyes on how our special needs students are being met. And then just in general, there are issues coming up with a lot of the community councils that we're really concerned with. Community councils not having the voice, movements being made to restrict community council voice, both at the municipal level, and we don't know where, right, even at the state level, if some of those changes will be. So just want to encourage everyone to really protect local voice, and local voice starts in our neighborhoods. So thank you so much. And also I want to say as an art teacher, sorry, that all of you I noticed are matching today with a nice monochrome palette.
Black and white.
We planned it down. All right, well, thank you. Is there anyone else online for audience participation? That's Ms. Thompson question. Yeah, I think that'd be all right.
Actually. Amanda, could you just send me an email, please? So that we could have a dialogue about some of the things that you spoke about? Yarrow Silvers.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. Yes, I will certainly do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sound like yes.
Also, we are the Wednesday.
Say that again.
Starting the new year, we looked at the fourth Wednesday.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, just confirmation there from the clerk staff that starting in January, it'll be the fourth Wednesday of the month for this committee to meet. With that takes us through the agenda. So we will go ahead and get out a little early. Thank you, everyone. The meeting is adjourned.
Great job.
Thank you.
Like, you know, she's right. Nolan, if you'd worn something like white, we would have really had a nice.